Hey guys, I decided to do something different for today, and it's a video about positioning. That's why I picked Raynor here, because I find him the easiest and best hero if you want to learn how to properly position in teamfights, as there is not much to think about other than where you are and where you should be during a fight. He's mostly an auto-attack based hero, so as you know, all your damage will come from your constant damaging of the enemy heroes, and the only way to do that is to be out of their reach but still close enough to deal damage through the fight, which is not something that's too easy. You will be seeing my gameplay, rank 1 gameplay, so this is ranked. We are a bit mixed here. I don't see a lot of people, I guess, at these hours, but it is still good enough to showcase why it is so important to position as well as you can and maximize your damage output when you're playing an assassin. So talents I will go through as I pick them. Shortly I will just explain why, but this is mostly just about positioning and less of a Raynor guide, which I'm sure not many of you even need at this point. If you do need it, you can let me know and I will be sure to make another video focusing entirely on Raynor and how to play him, when to pick which talents and so on. So at the start, this is a great map for heroes that can get seasoned marksman, because there's extra creeps, which means more stacks, and the lanes are pretty close to each other, so you can just move like that and collect more than just your lane's share of stacks. Here, as we begin the game, you will notice that I'm trying to position so that I'm out of reach of their burst, which is Keltas's Living Bomb Flame Strike combo and the bomb from Frag Grenade from Tychus and his Overkill. So if you get in the range of all those combos, Keltas can just pop you in the air and then you're basically popping your heal or dying before it can even take effect. So you try to be in this range right here. So it is about less than a half a screen away, so about 1/3 of my screen is the ideal distance you should be. So that's about the edge of your auto attack range, and you can use that to approximate how long it would be on your screen. Alternatively, you can just practice on the creeps and see where the range is, and then try to memorize it or mark it somehow on a paper and then practice with pictures, or just play a lot of games, which is also a good way to do it. It's a passive way to learn, but it's still a way. So back to this tutorial or informational guide. If you see your heroes positioning in front of you, it's time to step forward, which you can always do, but try to avoid clumping up. So always step to the side like that. Never clump up. Even in these early stages where it doesn't matter, it is still good practice to never just stack onto a hero, because you are potentially blocking their path if they want to escape. You're limiting their mobility if they want to go forward, and you move ahead of them at that point. So always keep in mind, not all heroes can deal damage from over the walls like you can, so let them pass through those edges if you are positioned in such a way. Here I tried to go behind them because it is a favorable position for us, and we managed to push them out to the tower, so they're basically on the back foot and we are free to get stacks. And that's what you should be doing on this map. In a map like this, if you can just keep sustained enough to jump into a fight and hopefully secure a kill, it is good enough. All you have to do is try to aim to get 50 or so stacks at 20 minutes, and if that's your focus, you will be very useful in team fights, especially against tanky teams. So right now it's usually possible to see 2 tanks, in which case that strategy pays off even more. As far as the positioning at this point of the game, you want to rotate between either bottom and mid lane or top and mid lane, depending on how the enemy is reacting to your team and where you're needed more. So if you see a Zagara bot lane against 3 people, it might be a good idea to go there, since she can clear creeps very quickly and you can just zone them out a bit, which will in turn get you more stacks. So it's always good to just keep an eye out on the map, see where the enemy heroes are going, and accordingly you just move and try to react. So dying on a map like this can happen. Usually it shouldn't be happening if you're with your healer, so that would be a point where you can say, okay, my position was not proper, I should never overextend like that if there's no way to heal me through the damage that's coming through. So that would probably mean you got bursted down by more than one hero. My mistake there was that I wasn't judging the Malfurion's distance properly, and he came just a few seconds after I engaged that fight. So if I waited a bit longer, I wouldn't have died, but still it's very early, so there's no real advantage to take from that death. Later on, positioning becomes more important, and I'm gonna go into very high detail. Maybe I'll even pause the video to explain certain situations. So here you keep doing what you've been doing so far. So less important to position, more important to keep an eye on to the map. As far as where you're safe, you're usually just safe near the edges. So where the creep is laid, right here on the bottom, is a good area to move through. So that way, if they try to attack you, only the ranged hero can hit you. The others need to use some sort of movement ability, which is not ideal for them since they don't know what they're jumping into. So as far as this fight, I tried to move away from that warrior dude, I'm forgetting his name for some reason. Still Muradin, right? You try to move away from him so he cannot reduce your attack speed, and that way you are performing your maximum damage through the fight. So here we almost get him, but of course some healings are just too much. So at that point I didn't have the burst to kill him, but maybe with slight more stutter steps I would have been able to. So that's another part of your movement and positioning that you could change, which is moving slightly forward when there's a chance that one more hit would get a kill, but not just running forward without any intention of just getting in quickly and shooting off a slight burst and then backing off. If you are needing to do more than like 2 seconds worth of DPSing, it might not be a good idea to go in alone, because you never know what's gonna come. So I saw that there was basically no way that they would kill me if there was no hard CC near me, and the Keltas was not that near. So I decided to just take this path to our base so we can just protect it. Normally you would want to avoid doing such things, but sometimes you can guess that it won't just be resulting in your death. And the better you are at guessing that, the more risks you can take. So it's a good thing to improve on, but you have to be alert and remember when it worked and when it didn't, so you can keep improving your estimates of what you can do with your hero and how far you can go without resulting in your death. So here I'm keeping an eye out on the top lane, and I wanted to see if there was any reason to go. And I noticed that when I looked there were 3 heroes, which is why I ran instantly, because we could have won that fight, but then they got another helper, and I immediately just went to our tower to get some more stacks and stay safe and out of reach. So it is very dangerous to just stand here by the edge if there is 5 heroes missing, but I felt that they were going bottom and I saw some of them already, so it was a guess, but it was a good guess. So sorry. Here we are reaching the point where you should be looking at your stacks, and if you see a number like you see on my screen, which is 18, you are doing all right. So keep doing what you're doing on maps like this, that is. So here your focus should be getting the creeps to the point where if you survive a fight for more than 10 seconds later on, you will be doing lethal damage to everyone. So you should be focused with that goal in mind. And you see at this point my damage is lower than Zagara's, but it's gonna ramp up as the game goes through. It's mostly because I've been focusing on getting more stacks than just roaming around with my team, and it's a playstyle that you might want to adopt for Raynor and in general for heroes that benefit greatly from levels. So keeping it safe to ensure more chances of wins later on. So here a good position is where I am right now. So I'm behind the wall. They can hardly see me and even less a chance of attacking me. So I was very safe through the entire fight, and I was able to follow Nazebo's movement, and it secured a kill. There was another approach you could have taken, which was behind your team, but that way you are forced to move back if Kel'Thas uses your stacks, uses his flame strike, and you basically then don't deal the damage you need to deal. So splitting up from your team and being in range, if you can secure a position where you are in range, which is easier once you reach level 20 and get your Nexus Frenzy. But at this point it was still alright to be on the other side of a wall. I was still able to damage and contribute to a fight. So that way you are dealing your maximum damage or close to your maximum damage, and you're always staying safe. So if there's a longer brawl, you're gonna be even more effective. I took Giant Killer because I felt like Muradin was constantly in my range, so if I wanted to focus him this way, I would be able to deal even more damage to him. Right here you see I immediately back off when I see I'm in the front lines and try to position myself between my healer and my warrior. If I see a specialist, I will try to be close to them, as they can basically, in this case Zakara can protect us with Nidus worms, or sorry, Maw, right, the Maw, devouring Maw. So it is safe to be with her, and at this point I have the speed buffs and the knockbacks that I need to avoid a Kel'Thas flame strike, so we are safe together. It's not that big of an issue at this point. So like you see, I have to focus Muradin at this point, because the other heroes would, if I went for anybody else in that situation, I would have been exposed to more than one of their damage dealers. Here I try to make a play to catch Kel'Thas, which I manage, but I leave myself very open to their response, which was the reason I died there. So I went a bit over aggressive because I didn't notice two of our allies were dead, and that led to another disadvantage. So what I could have done there was either gotten lucky with dodging that almost point blank stun from Muradin's Stormbolt, or I could have not gone for the kill, but as I am getting stacks from getting kills and not losing them on dying, it is not that bad. So it resulted in not much lost except for some experience for the enemy team, but we are still ahead, even though they are leading the kills at this point. It is 8-11 for them. So yeah, 8-11. I constantly try to be between our healer and our front line, so that's where I want to be. Here I went forward because there was a wall next to me and my team was back behind, so I could retreat to them, and it would have not been that dangerous if they even went for me full on. So constantly try to position in a way that you're either separated from your team but not in reach of just one movement ability. So if you're over a wall, it's a good position. So here you see the edge where that statue is. That was a decent place to be, as it forces them to split their attention and split their focus. And if they go for me with not enough damage, I will just heal it off, and it will result in basically just them wasting time. So like here, you see, I'm not in danger because of my healing and Zagara's Nidus network, and it forces them to split and group in a position that's awkward like this, and then we can just pick them off one by one. So easy chase. Again, I take the safer route here because I want to intercept if there's some mounting heroes like here, and I try to stutter step as best as I can, but I miss my Q, and that doesn't lead to a kill. If I had aimed it a bit lower, it would have, but still, sometimes you just have to reflect on your mistakes later and see, but it's hard in the heat of the moment like that. Here we make a good choice, just going for the boss when we have an advantage. The damage is there, as we have both Zagara and Raynor, who both deal significant amount of DPS, and we switch tanking. So this is another positioning tip. It will attack the closest target, so if you see somebody getting hit a lot or just nearly dying, you might want to soak a bit of that damage, so it either splits with your team or helps you take the boss, which you otherwise wouldn't. That's a general tip for all the neutral mobs, so you should use that if you are seeing your allies taking too much damage, because you never know when a fight's gonna pop up on these camps, and you don't want to have one hero almost at one ability of that. So it's a good practice to keep an eye out and keep working on it. So here at this point I should have at least 28 stacks, and I have 33, which is alright. If we ended up getting slightly more brawls early on, this would be over 40 at this point, which would end up reaching 50 at the 20-minute mark, but that requires you to be participating in more fights, and that's not how this game went. We were more standoffish here. There was not that much all-in play, as the enemy team and our team had heroes that were stronger later in the game. So Keltas, Nazeebo, both are very, very reliant on getting all the talents they need. And here again I am positioned behind my healer or between my healer and the warrior, which is Tyrael. So always look at where they are in a position accordingly. You see me always standing close to them, either between them or next to one of them, and that way they are able to respond to them focusing me, and I can retreat and they can body block. So keep those bodyguards close to you, and that's how you're gonna survive a fight. So here again I am on the side, which means if they went for me I would be able to take the damage instead of my team, and Malfurion is close, which means I am safe to take some punishment here, as well as having my adrenaline boost ready. You want to back off with your team and just go to the right here. So you don't want to be in the front line like this, so you just go back and to the side, and that way you're always surrounded by your allies basically, but not surrounded by them in a way that's clumping you up. So you can see from my play here, I'm always trying to move with my team but never next to them, so that way any AoE damage will not hit more allies and I will not get bursted by Keltas bombs. So I decided to stun their Rhaegar here and tried to chase Nazeebo. I stopped chasing him because I felt like it would have been pointless, but he turned around for some reason and my team was able to secure the kill. So here we are low, but their team is lesser, so they only have 2 and we have 4 here. Zagara pushing mid, and we are safe to take these forts and this cannon tower. Yes, the tower. Okay, so we are backing off here because we can take the neutral camps or just turn in, depending on what the situation is, but there's really no great benefit from us doing this at this point, though there's not much objectives you can take and we have an advantage. So the idea was that we resupply with mana and come back and then force a fight that might end the game. So as it turns out, they are staying in the mid lane, but not all of them, so we can pressure them again. And here you see I react to his zombie wall and just move slightly to the side, which is something you could keep an eye on when you play a hero like Raynor, as he is pretty fast to move and has a pretty slick attack animation, which is really, it goes off very fast and it enables you to just move fluidly through the fights and try to maximize your damage output. So again, Muradin goes for me, but I have my talents made for this kind of situation and I was able to just drop him very easily with the help of my team, of course, and we just turn it around. So through the fight I was in the middle of my team but never stacked onto them, which meant if somebody jumped me, they would all just turn to him and he would get focused, like you saw there. So even a tank jumping on you will not result in that much of a threat if you're positioned like that. If you were on top of your team, that might have led to a different situation, which would be harder for your healer to keep up with, because maybe he might misclick a hero or you would get bursted by AoE or something else could happen, which meant you couldn't move like you would normally because you would be stacked on top of each other, so you would move to the side, which could make your position even worse, and you want to avoid those type of situations. So here we saw that the timer was going down, the boss was coming up, and we had the damage to take it as they were not positioning properly for this situation, and we just decided to focus down this boss and go for the safe way to end, which is boss plus the spiders. So we could press our advantage here, and we are doing it from a safer way, which is more secure. You could just go all in with the boss, but that way you're not really using up the resources that you have at this time. So if you have a way to stay focused on that, like mentally, or just keep an eye out on that, you want to keep it in your mind that any advantage you can get is better than just going into a team fight and hoping that your positioning is better. So there's a lot more than to just position properly, but it is a big and very important part of this game. So here you see me stutter stepping away, but still next to material in case somebody jumps me. I wouldn't go too far to the left except to just finish the game, and that way I was basically just able to just kill the core without any threats on me at all. So I hope this gives you some insights on how to position and how to play a ranged hero, and basically focus on maximizing your damage. So instead of just looking at how the game is going, you can always look at your position and keep an eye out on that, and that way you can stay focused and improve your game. Thank you, and until next time. And I'm back again. I didn't even leave. I'm just going through the talents here. As you can see, standard build. It is very standard. You can find this on pages like HOTS builds